that didn't feel right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. This is Steve Peterson.
And this is Jack Hinkle, and I'm going to hit the mute button so we don't have to listen to ourselves through the computer the whole time. You can keep going.
Buttons have been pushed. Okay,
yeah,
we're
good.
back. Steve Peterson, Jack Hinkle, Chops Podcast, talking about best practices for knowing your students, knowing your content, and knowing your teaching.
Steve, how we doing? It's like the first week back after Labor Day. Had a long weekend.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody about that today. About a student asked me today, like, when does fall start? And I said, well, I think it's like the third week of September. Seems like September 20th, right around there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So I said, technically, I thought it was a good question because I said, technically, we're still in summer.
Yes.
But I said, culturally, in this part of the world, the day after Labor Day is it's fall.
I think if September is fall.
Right.
August is still summer.
August
Even
is
though
still summer.
truly it's whatever, September 20, whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's when the honeymoon phase wears off in school. That's when it's fall. You're like,
it does.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so going with that, it is getting into a fall vibe.
Yep.
We're getting into our routines.
It's a little chillier, which I'm okay with.
Jack's a runner. You're still running in the morning.
Every
You got
morning.
those 55 degrees
That feels good.
morning.
55 is good.
Yeah.
That's good. Once it gets down to the 30s and the 20s, it's less good.
Yes.
We did have our first get rained on during marching band today.
Was that the first one of the season?
First one where we actually got wet. It's not the first rain, but we started outside. We're like, we're okay. And then a couple sprinkles, and then more than sprinkles. And Mr. Golden got on the microphone. He's like, band, head inside. And the kids are like, ah. Yeah. I was talking with Mrs. Nouse, but some students are realizing for the first time that their physical appearance could possibly get blown up by the weather.
Hair, makeup.
Yeah, they don't like that. And that's like priority number one for some kids.
Yeah.
And we did an episode on like how the kids experience something for the first time.
Yeah.
We just watch it happen so many times we forget that. But some of the kids had their first time today of like getting the physical appearance blown up by the rain.
And then coming back into a room and having to be with your classmates and your hair is like
all jacked up.
Yeah,
You're like mascara is like running down. You look like you're in a horror movie.
Yeah, your shirt has wet spots all over it, right?
Yeah.
Your shoes are squishy and
you're like got your phone out. You're like trying to fix it.
Right.
Yeah, but they're learning for the first time. I get it.
And hopefully they'll learn that they, after a while, it's like, well, everybody's in the same boat.
Right. You would think that would come next.
It's kind of part of the community.
Correct. So, rain. This is the good segue.
Rain.
We have no control over the weather.
Unless you're Joe Biden.
That's so out of pocket even for you.
Wasn't there a conspiracy theory about starting the rainstorms or starting the dry spells?
I do not want to bring up political conspiracies on this podcast.
Yeah.
Save that for a different podcast. Have you ever watched that 70s show?
No.
There's an episode where they all go skiing, and there's two couples in there, and one girl asks the guy, she's like, Eric, can I borrow your jacket? I'm cold. And he's like, sure, gives her the jacket. Then the other girl's like, Michael, I'm cold. Can I have your jacket? And he goes, well, dang, Jackie, I can't change the weather. You have no control over the weather. And today, Steve, and Chops Podcast listeners, we're talking about the difference between control and influence. Because as teachers, we like to think we have control over our classroom, but in reality, we have like zero.
Mythbusters.
We have like zero control.
Don't tell
over
the
classroom.
kids.
Don't tell the kids. Kids, if you're listening, we have absolute control. I promise you. Don't tell the kids, but we don't have any control. Right? Like what is stopping the kids from like all magically breaking out into havoc, throwing stuff, like walking out like at any given time? There are no seatbelts. There are no helmets. Like, you know what I mean? Any given moment, that could happen.
Right.
Sometimes it does. I think that's how food fights started.
I do too. That's some of that kind of silliness that goes on in hallways, creating kind of chaos. But I think that's a pretty good thing to understand is that you don't have control of a group of people.
No.
You can build a process where you trust the process and you come to trust that their actions and their skills will go a certain way, but ultimately, and so you hope that your process is good enough that the students kind of go into that system and you create a relationship where they, I don't know, a sense of loyalty or at least a sense of buy-in, a sense of connection, a sense of belonging. And so they don't want to blow up that little community or sphere, your little biosphere, right? But you don't have control of other people.
And I think one of the hardest parts of a young teacher, and this is something that I think takes a lot of time to develop, is recognizing. You're still trying to grow yours from 2011, right? 14 years later? Someday, buddy. You just want to be a man. Some teachers, very young, I think have a hard time figuring out when they have control versus when they don't, and they need to try and be influencing and give up the illusion that they're searching for control. Let me provide you with an example since you so kindly asked.
Presentation provided by Jack Hinkle.
I teach marching band mostly outdoors. When it rains like today, we move indoors. And my room is the beautiful facility of the high school known as the BPAC lobby. Brand new, like 5 years old, something like that. And it has a beautiful like window out. And you can see the entire parking lot, huge window, huge. And there's not really much sound treatment in that room. It's pretty loud in the marching band world. OSHA would probably be concerned.
It's like super high ceilings with no tile. It's just like open.
And you're playing into glass windows.
Right.
It's a grand old time. So here's when I realized today I have no control because we came back in from the rain. Now, marching band directors out there, you know how hard it is to pull your kids back in to like focus and lock in
after getting
wailed on by the rain and coming in for like another 20-minute sectional, right? Difficult. Now, my kids face the window. And every time this happens, I'm reminded why most classrooms do not have windows because they are very distracting.
So were the kids
distracted? They were distracted, which, again, this is where I chose like influence, and I chose to not try and control this because, as you know, if it's raining, it's usually getting loud, and the loud rain is pretty. Like, it's kind of nice to look at. So the kids are looking at the rain the entire time. And I'm not taking the bait on that one. I'm like, okay, it's fine. Like, enjoy it. But then when it really gets hairy is when the school dismisses, but band stays late, and you got a bunch of kids outside getting into their cars. And this is when the distracting happens because it's like pouring down rain, and there's kids like flying. They're holding like random stuff above their heads. A bunch of my kids started laughing because a girl was like filming a TikTok outside, and they just like started busting out because she's doing like these weird dance moves in the rain, and the kids are. And I'm like trying to get the mellophones to do something. I'm like, what are you guys? I'm like, oh, look back. And now you're like, well, Jack, why don't you just turn the kids around so they don't face the window?
Jack, why didn't you face the kids around?
Well, Steve, glad you asked. We do have things going on in the stage, which if they turned around and faced the opposite way, it would be very loud for the people who are in that room. So we've been asked to face toward the window, which I'm happy to oblige. But there are moments like this today where I just feel like I had no control over this. And so I have to choose influence.
Did you say anything to them directly about that?
I make fun of them in a lighthearted way. I'm like, wow, you guys must have never seen people before. You've never seen rain before. Isn't that fascinating?
Gotcha.
Something like that.
Right.
Where I'm like keeping it lighthearted, and I'm not getting after them like, you better look at me right now or I'm going to give you 30 push-ups. Like, I'm not doing that because it's pretty human. Especially, I mean, you think of how we feel like I'm using a staff meeting because that's probably the same level of engagement for us as it is for students, right? Where you're not in charge, you're not leading it. After 50 minutes, it's pretty easy to be minimally distracted by something and kind of find yourself, daydreaming or whatever. So I'm not holding it against them because I've been there. But I do want to try and find ways to redirect. And I'm choosing influence and I'm not under the illusion that I'm in control of that at all. So that was one that, came to me today kind of like authentically.
Okay. So what did it look like?
Well, kind of like just what I said, like trying to find lighthearted ways to do that. It was a lot of silence and just like waiting. I'm like, okay, you're back with me. Okay, good. Let's try this again until the next distractible thing happens. But once you kind of get back in that groove, you can choose to redirect, or you can choose to just keep the momentum of your teaching going.
Yes.
And kind of on the fly decisions based on what you need. But, we've talked about multitasking on here, and I felt like I was firing on all cylinders trying to teach the music, but also keep the kids with me. And you're like thinking of two things at once, like what you're going to say to them musically, but like how you're going to bring them back in the next rep, and, on top of all the random other stuff that happens in there. So that was a moment for me, control versus influence. So, Steve, thinking back in your years of teaching, are there moments that stuck out to you where you chose control instead of influence, or vice versa, even though it really was the other one that you chose?
That I chose control?
You chose the incorrect one, or you chose the correct one and you're glad for it. Kind of what I'm going with this is, like, typically we choose influence because we kind of understand at this point in our teaching career we have little control, and we choose to influence things and not to blow up stuff. But sometimes if we try and choose control, it just makes us realize how little we have, and something can like blow up in our classes. Right?
I think there's something really lonely in a classroom or in a rehearsal about saying something with a lot of conviction to a group of students and have them say no.
What are you thinking of?
Well, let me tell you.
Let me tell you.
The Everett's Christmas parade debacle.
Oh,
I don't know if I've talked about this.
I think we brought this up on the air.
I mean, it's a classic example. It's like, what can you make a student do? Nothing, But we were doing a Christmas parade in Everett, and it was like 3/4 of a mile to a mile from the elementary school to the high school, march through the little downtown of Everett, Kentucky. The band I did tell this before, but the band was marching. And traditionally, the band would stop at point A, which was at the high school band room. But this year, the mayor wanted us to go further, which is like point B, which is like more than double the parade, up a slight hill,
Miles.
Curvy roads, and not many people. I mean, it was rural Appalachia.
Yeah.
Okay? So we were going, I was in the front, and the band is marching, and then they all were marching, and I turned around, and there's like 8 kids running away from the band. Running away. And the band was only 25 kids to begin with. And so
these 30 your membership.
I mean, it was like mutiny.
Yeah.
It was a mutiny. And it was cold, and I ran up to the kids. I was like, "What are you doing?" Like, "Get back out there. The band's marching." And the band did keep on marching. And I was like, "Get out there. We're not stopping. That's cheap that you're quitting," yelled at them.
Yeah.
And I thought I could convince them to come back out. Now, one boy did. I can picture it now. That just kind of came back to
Good
me.
job, little Jimmy.
Yep. And he was like, "Aye, aye, Captain," and he ran back out there. But the other ones didn't. And that was like a lonely feeling that I had, that like I told the kids to do this, get back out there and start marching, and then they didn't. And I don't know how I would have handled that differently. I probably would have had the band stop at the first stop anyway, because that was what was agreed upon.
Yeah.
And tell the kids what was going on,
Mm-hmm.
knowing what I know now.
Yeah.
But that was like a position I didn't like being in, because I felt like I had to make a choice of like control.
Mm-hmm.
And then I pretty well could expect they weren't going to go with my sense of control. And so then it just felt like defeat.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt like they won, like whatever that was. And I didn't like how that felt. And I can't think of, it seems like the control happens when there's a process or there's a familiarity and there's a stable sense of expectations where the control can be used to help influence, even though it's and this is not, I'm not saying this very well, even though it's a student choice to do those things, but it's like if the community is there and kind of like the history
Yeah.
and the grooves are there, like
Mhm.
this is what we normally do. Like you could be with your high brass section, and if you wanted to for a second go into snip snap and just like for a little bit, it's probably very effective if you'd be like, can we just please stop and let's rehearse? Like if you just had like a slight change
Yeah.
of tone,
Yeah.
knowing your relationship with your students, they would respond to that
Yeah.
because they don't want to disappoint you,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
So that's in little ways that can happen. But I also know that, we talked about recently, it's really humbling to think that you basically have no control. So when you say to a student, take off your hat, and they say no, then the stage is set.
Right.
And then you decide how you have to respond, or you can not respond. But then whether you snap back at that, but it just seems like when you fight the control, that really, I'm going to turn it on me. When I get into that, that's very anxiety provoking for me. I don't like that.
That's not just you, brother.
Okay,
Not just you.
I don't like that because I don't like to think I'm losing, but it's also not like I want to win lose. But I just don't like the diminishing returns. Like I'm driving into a brick wall.
Right.
I don't like that.
Once you hit that moment where it's defiance, like the foot's off the gas immediately.
Right.
I think of those, like, remember those little finger trap things you get? Like,
Yeah,
it's the same concept, right? Like, quit pulling
Yes.
because you're just making it worse. No, that's true.
Another one is my wife has talked about this before with, I don't know if we talked about it as child rearing, but you don't take the wind out of their sails, right? But you take the sail out of the wind.
Yeah.
So they can continue to be like blustery and windy, but you move, you open up the sail so the wind goes through. So we as the teachers are not the sail that's like pushing against the sail. You kind of let it open and let it flow through, which I think is really interesting because it's hard to
agree.
fight with somebody that's not pushing you.
Right. I can think of times recently where I'll start off something like, why don't you turn in your thing? Why don't you turn in your homework? And then immediately, typically from like younger students that maybe don't know how I roll, they will like, well, I was just go into that. And that whole time, I just kind of look at them and smile. And then when they're done, like 2 or 3 seconds of silence. That's kind of how I tried to do that. Because I remember you teaching me that, like taking the wind out of the sails. No, sails out of the wind. I get it backwards every time.
Sails out of the wind.
Yeah. So that's an effective thing because once the kid kind of runs their course, they don't know what to do. Because they're expecting an adult to be like, well, you don't know what busy is. And blah, blah. They're expecting that. And that's probably how they've had those situations work out most of their life. And then somebody like flips the script on them and they like don't know what to do.
Right.
I think that's super effective.
It is. We need to go back and get Heidi Snyder back on here, primary grade teacher at Concord Elementary, and she's a master primary grade teacher, and I imagine she doesn't. There's not those pushbacks that she doesn't engage like that, right? That there's.
Yeah, if you're engaging with a 6-year-old,
right,
that's probably not going to work out far well for you.
Good job for you, but
No.
like that is based on system and procedure and expectations and relationship and community.
Yep.
And what about you as a student? Do you remember teachers that like instances of control versus influence?
Yeah, I'm trying to think back and like think of how that would have played out. I had really good teachers, especially in high school. That's really nothing against my junior high or elementary experience. It's just I remember the high school better.
Sure.
And I had some really good teachers that rarely went sideways. I do remember my freshman year biology teacher, who I think you also had when you were a student here.
Okay.
Is that true? Okay, maybe we'll not. But he was he was a good teacher. And I think I had like, I must have been in a lame class because I remember at one point he was like, he gets excited about biology, as a bio teacher should.
Yes.
And at one point he was just like, I can just give you a worksheet every day. You do the worksheet and we just sit around. He must have been upset with our lack of engagement or something. And I can remember that moment because I would say that was influence. He probably realized he couldn't control how much we were engaging because he's probably tried to manipulate it. But I think that was like his next step toward influencing it, was trying to get us to engage a little bit more. I remember my AP calculus teacher who was in love with math, very much so, and would sing songs to us about math all the time and make up lyrics to like Katy Perry songs and put it to math. And I think his influence was long ball because he influenced us so much by all the little things he did along the way that if there was ever a moment that he had to like snap on us, I think we went with him. And it made his influence along the way made the learning much more smooth because we didn't have any grooves that we hit. What you got? Teachers you had?
I kind of remember, like with some grade school teachers, some control going on.
Oh yeah, there's a little more fear back in those days, right? In the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where. Okay. So like this situation was we are in fourth grade.
Oh, here we go.
And next to us was the fifth grade classroom, and in the fourth grade classroom, our teacher went out of the room for a minute and left us alone. And we were 10 years old and there was 20 of us and we got loud, shocking. Right. And the assistant superintendent's son was in that class. Okay. And it did get loud. I'm sure it was nothing serious, but it was loud. So we were next to the fifth grade classroom. So inevitably the fifth grade teacher came over there, and she was no joke, and that nobody messed with her until so she came in and yelled at us, and said, your teacher's going to be so disappointed. I'm going to tell them, and you're going to be quiet and sit down and mind your business, right? And just kind of read us that. And I think as a 10-year-old, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm tapping out.
Heard, Chef.
I'm heard. Okay. The door closes. As soon as the door closes, the assistant superintendent's son jumps up on a table and like takes his arms like he's shaking them and goes, at the top of his lungs goes, well, excuse me, like that. And we're like, oh no. And then shockingly, the door opened and the teacher came back in and just destroyed that
Who
kid.
was it? Could she tell it? She know who it was?
Yeah,
Okay.
she went after him and I was like, oh my gosh, she's going to kill him. But so that was control. And then the control got a little out of bounds. Like she wasn't able to quite get it, and then went back for the final slam I think she shut that down through control. At that point. But I do remember, I remember teachers that, never yelled. Like, I thought Max Jones was really good at that. Like, he never, our band director here from 85 to 2005, he didn't yell, like raise his voice much. But it was kind of like a sense of, it kind of was control or influence, but it was kind of like loyalty and expectations and being a part of the group that kind of got to you.
Sure.
And so it didn't have to be a yell fest,
Right.
which I do remember that like fondly. Like that was like a cool thing that he could do. I think it's really interesting too. I've been listening to some podcasts and interviews with Nick Saban, the Alabama football coach who retired 2 years ago, and now he's on ESPN Game Day Football. But he won multiple championships at the University of Alabama. He won one at LSU. But I've been listening to some older interviews with him about his coaching rise and like the jobs he had and things like that. And he is known as a yeller, and he gets after the kids. But it was interesting because he started in the Alabama football program, or maybe before that, it was all about the process. And he said, you don't play the game and look at the scoreboard. So maybe like the inner game of tennis kind of stuff, but you don't check the scoreboard. Like you play your position the best you can absolutely do your position. And then the rest will take care of itself. Yeah. And there was an example of him winning some big game where they were up by like 40 points or something crazy, and the clock was almost running out. And maybe it was like one of those things where they were going to be in victory formation. It was like down to there. And something happened where there was like a penalty.
Oh.
And he called timeout. And they were up by like 40-some points. He called with like 20 seconds left. He called timeout and brought his team to the sideline and ripped them. Absolutely laid into them because we don't talk about the scoreboard.
Yeah.
We're talking about the process.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're up 55 or down 55, that you're going to go through this process.
We're talking about process.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So I thought you would appreciate that.
Yeah.
It was like, he was like, don't look up. Don't look at the scoreboard.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of information out there from him about like helping students and young adults or his team to buy into these concepts that seem so like large and like impossible, like how, but his system worked, and he was so interested in that. So in that one, he had the influence. He had created that community of not letting the system down. So it kind of was a control. I mean, there was a lot of control going on. He was kind of the dictator. He took care of a lot of the details himself, but it was also an influence about how we respond to the process.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
I think that's huge. I mean, you as a facilitator, you listeners, whoever you're facilitating, I mean, isn't that what you have the most control and influence over, is the process you create?
Yes.
Much more than the outcome. Not to say the outcomes aren't important, but you know, if your process if they're achieving the process well and the outcomes aren't there, you have to change the process. But if they're not achieving the process and the outcome's not there, that's like, duh, right?
Yes.
That's good. Nick Saban.
There's I was thinking about you actually when I was listening to one of them on a walk.
I was going to text you, Jack, but I didn't. Usually that's what you say next. I was going to text you. Bro, then text me.
Nick Saban, the process. It's good stuff. And there's a lot of videos out there about him talking to his team. And so,
cool.
Now we're going to start talking about the process, but that's in line with control and influence.
Oh, yeah.
The process.
Because you can control your process, or you can make it what you want, right?
Yes. So creating the process is basically putting a value system on what's important.
Yeah. And controlling the process influences the outcome.
Yeah.
There it is. Yeah. That's true.
So how do you think, I don't know if you want to get into it, but you're in the first third of the marching band season.
Yes, we are.
Process of the high brass is like 40, 45 students. And I know a few weeks ago, you said you really enjoyed getting back to it because you were really teaching the process. I could see your like sincerity. You're like, you were in to helping the kids learn the process. And so that would pay dividends down the road about learning material and achieving excellence.
Yeah, I do. It's nice because I can say few words and I feel like they know what I want. Like, for example, today we're outside to start class. We're behind the tower. It's really loud because the drum line's probably like 50 yards away.
Yeah.
So we're like, I'm like, okay, guys, hey, everybody. Chung, 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 chung. I'm like, oh, classic. Okay.
Yeah.
So, we start every rehearsal the same way. We play 3 Fs. Usually it's kids leading it. Today it was me. I just stand at my own standby. They just do that with me. I put my arms up, their horns go up. We do our 3. And then I'll do like little signs for them for other warm-ups. But they know what to expect. They know what comes next. It's like box 5 or whatever in that, like anticipating your teacher, in the words of Frank Troika. That's like high level. Level 5, that's what we're going for. But today it was like, okay, 38 to 40, play. We play it. Do it again. Do it again. Piano. Crescendo. Forte. Again. Sing. Feet. Like, that's how it is. And maybe it's dry. Maybe you're listening there and like, dude, I wouldn't want to play for you. But like, in a world where there's a drum line very close to you, few word do trick. And I just appreciate the clarity. And oftentimes I feel like when I speak more, I muddle up what I want them to do. So I feel good about that process.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
I would think also that students that have been in school all day, marching band is the last period of the day, that I think that can be, kids can be tired at the end of the day, obviously. And
yes.
They've been through 6 classes.
Yes.
And now they're going outside and being physically active and, battling the elements, whatever it is, and the drum line, the wind, all this kind of stuff. But then for you to kind of go, even though it's a complex ask of what you're doing, it's a very simple task or a simple direction.
Yes.
And like that can be calming.
Yes. Difference of easy and simple. That's good. Yeah, I think so too. It's very clear what's being asked of them, and they can't mix up words when there's only one word, right? So yeah, I think that's been going well, and I appreciate we've kind of hit the groove of it now. And the things I still want to build up, and this isn't a now thing, this is like an over the years thing, is just some sort of like curriculum for the student leaders to teach other kids, like give them a set of language or tools or something, because I need to split up more. But we haven't been doing as many sectionals lately because we've been doing full band trying to get the show on the field. So yeah, thanks for asking about that. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
In light of time, my final thought with this before we go is, if I were to talk to myself as a young teacher again, I would say, in terms of control and influence, quit trying to control what you think should happen and instead influence what you want to happen. I think I got caught up a lot in the shoulds back in the day and tried to put the hammer down. I'm guessing that's true for many young teachers.
I think that is.
What do you got before we say goodbye?
I think that with the telling the kids what to do, the power struggles and all that kind of thing, I do think it's everything is tied to the culture that you're trying to create.
Yes.
Everything. And you don't get days off at that.
You're always leading.
You're always leading.
One way or the other.
And you can influence so much by your actions and your words. Obviously, that's how you influence people.
You're telling this to the kids or to you or both?
To myself,
okay.
Keeping in mind the goal of working well with kids is creating that culture that you want, whether it's a jazz band rehearsal, a marching band, or a group of 30 students in a traditional classroom, but creating the attitude and the emotional temperature that you want. I do feel like I'm the most in control of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like I don't have control, but I'm a player.
Yeah, you're the biggest influence.
I'm the biggest influence. So my control. Yeah, I have to check that. Okay.
Word. That's
Okay.
good. Dude, I got pasta tonight. No more burrito bowls. Taking a week off.
So
Pasta.
excited.
Yep. You're getting out of here. I'm going to go over to that room and press the microwave button 3 times to get 1 minute and 30 on the pasta. That's right. So please like and subscribe and follow us on anywhere you listen to podcasts. Keep sharing the TikToks, the Instagrams, the YouTubes.
The YouTube.
The YouTubes.
Yo.
Yep. We're having a grand old time.
Okay. For Steve Peterson.
And Jack Hinkle.
We're out of here.
See ya.